This video covers the site and plugin templates for ConnextCMS. The purpose of this video is to walk through some of the nuances that aren't so easily captured in the README files for those repositories. So I'm going to walk through the file structure and the files in each of those repositories and give a little more background on how to create your own website using the site or plugin templates. So pretty simple objectives. I'm just going to walk you through the site and plugin templates. And here is a little sort of table of contents of what I'm going to cover in this video. So let's just dive right in. I've got both. I'm just mostly going to walk through the code in brackets. That's what you're looking at here, is my text editor that I typically use. So I've got the site template pulled up right here, and here is the GitHub repository where all this code lives. So real quick, if all you're doing is building your own website, then a site template is all you need. And if you're doing a web app, a site template's probably all you need. The difference between the site template and the plugin template is that the plugin template has this additional ConnextCMS directory, and the files in here let you set up a new menu item within the ConnextCMS dashboard. And I'll show you what that looks like when we get to it. So let's start with the site template, because this is the more simplified repository, and it's a good place to start. Probably the best file to start with is the merge script. The merge script is a bash shell script, and it's pretty simple, and it's intended to be customized. But both of these repositories or templates assume that the user is using the best practices as explained in the ConnextCMS documentation. Here's kind of the visual representation. It starts with the keystone 4. That gets copied and called myCMS. Then ConnextCMS overwrites whatever files it needs in this directory, and then you finally run the merge script in your site or plugin template, and that overwrites whatever it needs into the myCMS directory. So the myCMS is like the compilation of all this, and the order of operation matters. You couldn't copy this directory, then copy this directory, or start copying this directory, and then copy this. That wouldn't work. You need to start, the script needs, the order of operations is important. It starts here, and then overwrites what it needs to from here, and then overwrites what it needs to from here. So that's sort of a visual representation of what I was just talking about. So that's all the merge script is doing, is it's going into the models directory here, it's going into the routes directory here, and it's going into the templates directory here, and just copying what it needs. So let's talk about these directories and what's inside of here. And an important thing to note is that everything I'm talking about in the site template is not ConnextCMS specific at all. It's keystone.js specific. You don't actually need to use ConnextCMS in order to get value from the site template, because it's pretty much just interfacing with Keystone. But it's also a very reduced set of files, so all you really need to know in order to effectively build a website is just the files in this template. You don't really need to know anything else about Keystone or ConnextCMS. Okay, with that disclaimer. So the models are Keystone models, and Keystone runs on top of MongoDB, and these model files are what tell Keystone basically how to interact and create database entries in the MongoDB database. And the best place to get familiar with this is in the Keystone documentation. And so this example model is very, very simple. It only has one entry, which is a string. And so, these are really just intended as examples, to get a functional example to get you off and running. And then the view, or the templates, this is where the HTML lives. I've talked about this in previous videos. You can set Keystone up to use different types of templating files like Jade. ConnextCMS assumes that it's set up to run handlebars, which is the .hbs, but you don't need to know anything about handlebars, which is why I like using that template language. You can just treat these as HTML files. So the two important files that I've covered in previous videos is this default and the index. So the index is the actual home page, and then the default is the header and footer and navigation menu, and that gets used in all pages throughout the website, which is nice. You only have to go here, go to one place if you want to, change the navigation menu. It only lives in one file. You don't have to go and change every file if you need to make a minor tweak to the navigation menu. So what happens is you've got what looks like the start of an HTML file, your doc type, HTML head. Then you get down here to body. There's some other stuff that's the navigation menu. And then you get down to, there's some flash messages. This right here. Everything that's in the index file or any other view file, like logged in user, I'll cover this, and test, I'll cover this, but those files basically get injected right here by the server when it gets sent to the user. And so everything in here would get injected into that line. So this is the home page. There's a couple other example files here. Test, this is a file that shows up, it's just a very simple example that shows you how to create your own custom keystone.js view. And then this is the same type of file, except this one's only accessible by logged in users. And I'll show you how. So that brings us, that's basically the extent of the template directory. And so finally we'll go over here to the routes directory. And so the most important file in the routes directory is this router file. This is very similar to the keystone.js index file, and what makes this different is that when you install ConnextCMS over Keystone, it adds a hook in there to the Keystone index router file that goes out and grabs these smaller router files that are in your template. So what it's doing is it's setting up these routes. So if the user requests /test, it'll send this test page, and that's defined here in the routes views subdirectory. This is what tells keystone.js to say, hey, here's my handler, go out and render the test view, which is the HTML in this file here. And the same thing happens down here in logged in user. This looks a little different than this because it requires a user, and if that check passes, if the user is logged in, then it will render logged in user, and so that goes out to this file, which tells it, hey, render the logged in user file, which is this file here. So then it renders it. If the user's not logged in, it'll send them to the login page. And then there's the API handler. So this is not an HTML page, this is an API, like an AJAX call using JavaScript. You can make calls to these, and it says, hey, I'm using this middleware, and the code that you need to execute lives in example plugin with an export function called list. So we'll go here to the API directory, and here is the list function that executes when this is called. So if this seems a little convoluted to you, this is the typical way that Express works, and a lot of this stuff is hopefully documented in the Keystone documentation because this is Keystone specific. But that's basically the overview. Even if you don't understand this, by knowing where the code lives, you can just kind of copy and hack it until you get comfortable with it. But so in this API handler, there's a list function and a create function and an update function and a remove function, and those are all listed here. And if you don't plan on developing an API, don't worry about it. If you're just doing a website, you don't need to know about APIs. You just need to know about this for non-logged in users and this for logged in users. You can copy and edit the code, and that's all you need to make a custom website. But if you want to take it one step further and build a web app, then you're going to need to open an API, and this is how you do it. So that's everything you need to know to build your own website. As long as your merge script is set up properly, you can just basically do the steps I covered at the beginning by running the different merge scripts, generating the MyCMS, and customizing your own copy of the template, running the merge script in there to copy your edited files on top of everything else. And that's how you build a website with ConnextCMS. And if you run the Docker image, which I covered in another video, you don't really even need to know anything about how to build keystone.js or ConnextCMS. You just compile the Docker file and you're off and running. So with that, let's move over to the plugin template. Now the plugin template, actually let's just make sure. Yeah, okay, so covered that. So now we're going to move over to the plugin template. The only difference between the site template and the plugin template is this ConnextCMS directory. The keystone directory between the two is identical, and everything with regards to the merge script is identical. The only difference is this. And let me load the e-commerce demo so that you can see what I'm talking about with the left menu item. So this is a live demo. If you want to check it out yourself, you can check it out. Log in. So this is pretty typical. You log in. If you're an admin, it'll send you to the Keystone admin user interface with this link at the top to access the ConnextCMS dashboard. If you're just a regular admin, it'll send you straight to the ConnextCMS dashboard. So the Keystone admin UI is only available for super users. So that's loading. Now this e-commerce plugin, you can find this on the ConnextCMS website under live demos if you go to example sites. It's right here at the top. You can play with it. But this is a very simple plugin. All it does is it adds this item to the left menu, and this is just a place to store your API key for Molten. But this is this view here. This could be anything. This could be as sophisticated as this view, which is letting me create and edit blog posts. So the view can be anything, but so we're actually inside the backend, inside the ConnextCMS dashboard. So that's what the plugin allows you to do, is it allows you to create this interface within the ConnextCMS dashboard and really customize ConnextCMS for your clients or for whatever web application you're trying to build. You can create this really nice GUI for end users to use. So let's talk about how to do that. Place to start is the plugin settings.json file. So every plugin, so I'm going to use the term plugin here to refer to ConnextCMS specific plugins. And the site template is just for creating sites, but also APIs for a web app in Keystone. So in the plugin, all you have to do is feed the info with this JSON information. So this is telling ConnextCMS the name of the plugin, but also the name of the directory that it can look for in the plugins directory. And the plugin, that's also controlled by the merge script here. So what it's doing is it's going to create the MyCMS public plugins directory if it doesn't exist yet, and then it's going to copy your customized plugin into that directory. And again, you'll need to edit this for your own plugin. This one is actually called this, so that's why it works. And it's the same name here, so you'll need to change that. And then you need to tell it the location of your backbone views, templates, and models and collections. And those you can see them here. They exist in their own directories. So that's all these lines are saying is like there's only one template, and here's the path to it, And if there was more than one template or more than one file, you just add a comma and add the path to that, like this template 2. And like in this case, there's no collection, so that should actually be empty. And or no, there is a collection in this, but in a one I built, there was no collection, so it's fine. They're just arrays with strings pointing to the locations of the file. So and then you need to give it the constructor, the name of the constructor for the different backbone elements. So, for example, the view is called example view 1. And so that's what I'm telling it here, is the constructor is called example view 1, and the model is called example model. That's the constructor. And so that's what these chunks here is. It's telling it the name of the constructor of your plugin, and then this chunk tells the plugin loader sort of how to insert your plugin into ConnextCMS. So the primary view, the one that pops up when you click this left menu, that's this, and that's the instance. So let's see. So typically, what you do is you'd say var example view 1 equals new, and then you'd point it at the constructor. And so that's essentially what's happening, is you're saying, I'm going to call this example view 1, and you're telling it kind of what you expect the instance name to be called. And you'll be able to access this with, it'll get attached to the global variable, so it'll be global example view 1, and then that'll let you reference that instance. So in fact, let's just find out what I called this one. In fact, I can just pull up the code. Let's see. So here is the Molten plugin, which is also available on GitHub. So yeah, because I copied the template, so I just went with that. So example v1. So if I go in here, I can go global.example1. Nope, that didn't work. Plugin view.example view. There, that's how you reference it. So the actual view that was created, it lives inside the plugin view, which I should talk about here, or I'll talk about next. Talk about that in a minute. So this is just saying, here's the name of the instance. Here's the name of the view of the constructor. These are for the primary. Again, these are for the primary views. So this is the one that gets loaded when you click the left menu. You can have other views, other child views, but you need to tell it which one is the primary one that should get loaded when that left menu item gets clicked. The ID, this is a div. So a div gets created when it loads the plugin, an HTML div, and then it gets attached an ID with whatever you did here. So in this case, I can go, this is jQuery, and I'm going to say find this element. And so it's, I don't think it's going to show anything because it's hidden. Maybe not. Okay, yeah, so that's the actual left menu item. Okay, so it's I take that back. It's not a div. It's a list item in the left menu that gets that ID. And then the label, Molten API, that's what gets displayed right here. And then the font awesome icon I want next to the label in the left menu item, which is the shopping cart right there. So hopefully I didn't confuse you. Right now we're looking at the Molten plugin. I'm going to go back to the plugin template, and you'll see this. And if you run this, you'll see a left menu item. In fact, I think it's loaded in the demo, in the live demo. Let's log in here. So I'm loading the live demo because I believe the plugin is actually in here, and I want to show you the difference because it's using the same widgets. Oh shoot. Okay, so it's not loaded in there. But anyways, you get the idea. Font awesome icon, label, and then the ID for the list item, and that all controls the left menu item right here. So that's the plugin settings, Jason. The plugin view is part of ConnextCMS, and it talks about it here. I'm in the plugin template GitHub repository, looking at the README, and it discusses it here, the plugin view JS. So this is a file that is part of ConnextCMS core. It's not part of the template, but it's the file that is responsible for loading plugins. And there's a couple things you should know. It gets loaded as global plugin view. There's this global variable that holds all the backbone elements